Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Thank you for stopping by today. I do appreciate your support, and in today's video I'm going to be making stew with assorted meat. So I'm going to be talking you through as I go along. I have some of the ingredients that I'll be using for this stew, and I'll be adding more ingredients as I go along, and I'll be letting you know what I'm adding. As you can see here, I've got assorted meat, and I'll be adding more meat as I go along, and I will tell you what meat I'm adding because I'm not cooking all the meat together. Some meat I'm cooking separately. So I've already cleaned this meat. I've got chicken and goat meat here, which I've already cleaned, and I'm seasoning this with salt, chicken bouillon stock. I've added dried thyme, garlic and ginger paste, and chopped onions, but you can use any seasoning you like to season your meat. So I'm going to mix this together and put it on the heat to cook until it is soft and tender. So while the meat is cooking, I've blended the peppers, the tomato and the onions together, and I'm putting it in a pot. I did a few batches of blending because it's quite a lot, so I'm making a large portion here. I'm going to cook this separately on the heat until the liquid is reduced, because it's got a lot of water. As you can see, it's quite liquidy. So I'm going to cook this separately until it is reduced and until the tanginess or the rawness of the tomato disappears. So the meat has been cooking for a while and it is nice and tender. I'm going to remove the meat because I'm saving the stock. I'll be using the stock in the stew later. The stock is actually packed full of flavor, so never dispose your stock. Sometimes I save the stock in the freezer and I can use it for recipes at other times. So you can see the tomato has reduced. It has cooked down nicely. It has become thicker, and the tanginess has actually disappeared at this stage. So I'm going to turn down the heat so that it doesn't burn. So I leave it to simmer. While that is simmering, I'm going to fry the onions. There's something about fried onions. The aroma, the flavor of fried onions is so good. So I'm frying the onions, and I'll be adding the puree tomato. So the puree tomato can be quite sharp as well. So I'm going to fry this until the sharpness reduces. I've added ginger and garlic paste, not much. So I've added the puree tomato, and I'm going to fry this for about 5 minutes until the sharpness is completely reduced or disappears. So in here I'm adding dried oregano. So I'm not adding thyme because I've already added thyme to the meat when I was cooking it, and I'll be using the stock. So I don't want this stew to be over seasoned, so that's why I'm adding only oregano, because the thyme is already in the meat sauce, which I'll be using later. So like I mentioned earlier, I reduced the heat for the tomato sauce. That's to allow me fry the onions and the puree, and I'm adding the fried puree and onions into the tomato. So the tomato and the puree, everything is going to fry together for about 5 minutes. And I particularly like to use this method, especially when you're making large portion of stew. So it saves time because you don't have to continually fry for a long time when the tomato has so much water in it, and it is splatter. It actually reduces splattering as well. I've just added a little bouillon stock just to season the tomato, because I'll be using the stock which is packed full of flavor. I'll be using that later. So in here I'm adding the cooked meat. As you can see, I've added the bonnets, which I cooked separately. I usually don't cook my bonnets with the main meat because I don't use the liquid from the bonnets. I don't like the taste of the liquid from the bonnets when I cook it. So, and you can see that I haven't fried my meat as well. I usually don't fry my meat. I don't usually fry meat when I'm adding it into sauce, because I like it nice and tender. But if you prefer, you can fry your meat or grill it. But this is how I like to add my meat to the stew. So I'll leave this to sizzle a little bit, and then I'll add the liquid stock from the meat that I cooked earlier. So I'm using this liquid stock to lighten the sauce. So you have to lighten this to the consistency that you prefer. You can add more or less, it depends on your preference. So I'm going to leave this to simmer a bit for another 5 minutes. So after 5 minutes, I just stir the stew together, make sure the heat is evenly distributed, and at this stage the stew is actually ready. And as you go along, make sure you taste your stew and add more seasoning as needed. And I call this an all-purpose stew. When I have this at home, I use it to eat a range of things. I use it for rice, for yam, spaghetti, potatoes, you name it. And sometimes when I make ewedu or okra separately, I add this stew to eat swallow. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Bye.